Learn to build a full-stack Flashcard learning application using React Native, Express for the API, and Xata with a Postgres database. Hey everyone, what's up? This is Simon from Galaxies.dev, and in today's build you will learn everything you need to know to build your own flashcard learning experience in the style of an Anki application. So from database to backend API to React Native application, we're gonna cover everything. We essentially have 5 parts in this tutorial. The first part will cover everything about the API and how we can build a NodeJS server, how we can connect it to a database, and how we can create our API routes. In the second part, we're gonna get into our Expo application and set up the file-based routing, and then in the third part we're gonna get more into the functionality of actually selecting sets from predefined sets so the user can add its own special or favorite sets. Part number 4 will then be about creating your own set, uploading cards, and also uploading images to our API. And in the final part we're gonna talk about how to actually learn with these cards, how we can present them in a cool way and use Reanimated to spice up our app experience. There are also a few parts in this video where you might need more code, and that is linked below the video on GitHub, so you can easily copy paste those sections into your build and keep following along while we build out our application. As I said before, we're going to use Xata as the PostgreSQL database for our Node.js API, and Xata is also the sponsor of today's video. So go check it out at xata.io. You can get started for free. They have a very generous free tier, and we're going to see how to use Xata, how to use the CLI, and how we can use the cool features of Xata to easily model our tables and the whole database for our flashcard learning application. On top of that, Xata makes it really easy to work with TypeScript, as you will see in a second. So check it out at xata.io, as you can create your own database for this tutorial. And now let's get started with the API. Alright, so let's get started with the API part of our project. I'm going to create a new folder. Actually, I have a new blank folder already here, but I'm going to do another API folder. So we're going to have the API and the app next together in this folder. And I will run npm init-y. So that will initialize a new package JSON. I can just go into Visual Studio Code by passing in code. In the current folder. You can also just open it like code and then open the folder, whatever you prefer, but usually this is the way I open my projects from the CLI. And I will also zoom in. This is definitely something I don't recommend if you don't want to hurt your eyes. So here we go. This is my project. Now, what we need first of all is to set up our server with Node.js. And for that, we're going to install some packages. So the first thing is that we install some development dependencies. So that's why the -d is here for express types, node types, tsnode, nodeman, and rimref. That will help us to automatically relaunch our application, and we'll also install .env to load our environment, and of course express to actually build an express API. I actually took some inspiration from James' great video, who also used Xata in his video, and he actually referenced another post by Kalista Mla, how to set up a TypeScript Node.js project. So we have some similarities in that regards, but I will actually go over the setup a bit faster. He made everything a bit more in detail, but I want to really quickly get started. So I will create a new folder, source, and in that source folder will be our index.ts file. And within that index file, we first of all gonna disable Copilot today because I want to write some code myself. And then I will import Express. That still looks like I have it installed. Express from Express, okay, that will be our server. And then we also import .env from, guess what, .env. Can you just like automatically do this? That would be really helpful. So this is the starting point, and usually what we do is we create an app and we use a port. So let's say we would use the port from the environment, process.environment, or it would run on port 3000. So that would be the default port. Then we create our app. Ooh, that was a nice snippet, but I don't really want to use that. Calling Express. And then we can tell our app to please listen on that port. That is really the basic setup for our application. Maybe we should also have one additional line .env config, so that's what we usually call, which loads the default config from .env. And that would be enough to run our application. However, we want to use TypeScript and we're going to set up some snippets, some scripts. So let's start by adding a tsconfig file in here. .json. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of having all these configs files, but that's just how TypeScript works these days. And then we put in this. If you want to check out the code, once again, the note that this is also completely available for free on GitHub, so you can check it out. React Native Enki clone with API and Xata database. And in the API folder, you're going to find the dummy env, the NodeMon file we're going to create in a second, and also the tsconfig. Speaking of NodeMon, let's create that file. So we need a nodemon.json. And in here, we're gonna tell NodeMon, which is automatically restarting our application when files change, to watch the source folder, which we created up here. So here's the source folder. If anything changes in here, our server will reload. We're looking for the TS and JS extensions, and we will call TS node, which we installed initially, on our source index file. So that's the main file we're gonna launch to start our application. With that in place, we can also quickly apply some changes to the scripts part of our package.json. So when we want to start our development environment, we will simply run nodemon. If we finally want to make a real build, we can run this one, which will install the dependencies and then remove our build folder. So that is using rimref, which is usually better than just like using rm with a force. And I know people who deleted their whole hard space because a file or a path didn't exist, and so it was like rm minus rf dot. So we don't want to do that. Let's just use rimref. And to start, we can run node on our build file here. But as I said, we are using the dev command. So let's run npm run start dev, and that should bring up our server. So app listening on port undefined. That's great. That's good news. Let's create the file. Let's create an env file here. So .env, and I'm going to say port. It should have actually used that. I don't know why it didn't use that. Let's kill this and run it again. So now it's running on port 3K. Can we confirm this somehow? Actually, we can't because I have no endpoint. Maybe we can quickly spin up an endpoint. So let's say apt-get // I want to implement request resource, and then I will just return JSON. Okay, true. Perfect response. We can probably use a client in here. So let's try this client and make a call to HTTP localhost 3K. And let's see. No response. Do I have actually HTTPS here, localhost? Okay, yeah, it's HTTP. So that is the right URL I'm using right now, and the response comes down here. I hope you can actually see this, and my head is not covering this. So I'm going to try. I can't really resize the different views in here. That's a problem. If you zoom in, I really like the Rapid API testing client in here, but maybe we're just going to use Insomnia because it makes it a bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to bring in Insomnia here. So another testing client. You can also use Postman if you enjoy that. Simply make a new HTTP request. I'm going to copy that, and we're going to reuse a bunch of this in a second as well, making a GET request, and voila. Okay, so our API is up and running. That is good news because that means we can now focus on connecting our Xata database. Now, let's take a look at how we can include this. As I already said in the beginning, this video is sponsored by Xata, the serverless database platform powered by PostgreSQL. That means if it is serverless, we can easily plug it into pretty much everything. You could also use a Next.js application, SvelteKit, whatever you come up with, Python, Flask, PHP, everything. So what we need to do is we need to create an account. I actually do have one already, and I'm signed in. And once you got that, you're in your workspace. And from your workspace, we can now create a new database. I already have one, but I will actually do this fresh for you. So let's call this Enki Video in probably Frankfurt. Yeah, that should be the closest to me. And from my experience, that usually works pretty fast. So if I go into this, it should actually be already like it instantly booted up. So that's pretty cool. So we can now start from scratch. We can create a new table and give it a name. So like I can add a table and call this test table. And within that table, I can define the different rows, which is pretty cool. So I don't really have to understand any SQL at this point to do this. And once I'm done, I can actually get that code from here. But there's an even better way, I think. And I want to remove that table. How can I? Actions, yeah, delete table, yeah, that's what I want to do. So what I want to do is I want to actually connect this with my Node.js API because that makes the most sense to me. And for that, I'm going to kill the server because we're not really using it anyway. And I will use the CLI for this. So you can use the Xata CLI, and the first thing you want to do is you want to run npm install globally the xata.io CLI. And then you can log in, which I think I already did. So I will follow up by Xata init in my project. Let's give this a try. Initializing project, we will ask you some questions. You have a single workspace using it by default, select a database. Okay, we are selecting the Enki Video database. Create a git ignore and ignore env, yes, definitely. I want to use TypeScript, not with Dino, just TypeScript. Choose the output path for the generated code. Since we have a source folder, that is fine, so we can keep it like this. Now it's setting up a few files. So what is Xata doing under the hood? It is, by the way, installing also the Xata package to our, dependencies. So we have the Xata client now, which we would normally install manually. We have a Xata RC, which tells the CLI some options about the database URL and where to generate some code. It changed the env file, including your secret information, so you shouldn't put this anywhere else. And of course, after every video, I delete my stuff, so you don't have to use my Xata API key. It also won't really help you anything if you would use it, as you would just access my database. And then it created this cool Xata file here, which we should check out. So in that file, we have some types. Actually, a lot of types. We have the client, and from this function, we can get the Xata client in my index file. So we can actually do this already. So after the app, by the way, I want to add something to the app. So I'm going to add this line, which will allow us later to upload some images and not run any limit. And I will say client equals get Xata client from our .xata file. And with that client, I can actually make all the cool requests to the API or to my database without any problems. Now, what I want to bring in is some data to seed this. So again, you can find this on GitHub, and I just called this seed database.ts. As you know, we're building an Enki clone, which means we have some sets of learning cards. So we need some tables. We need a table for sets. We need a table for cards, which are related to a specific set. And I created 2 sets of these. Before we do that, I think we should actually define the tables in my database. So let me check this out. Where are we? We need different tables. I probably did this before. So you see, this is what I did before. But let's see how fast we can do this in here. And then I'm going to show you another cool feature. So let's start with an empty table. I'm going to call this one sets. So this is like the basic thing. We get all of the basic stuff here, created at, updated at, version. But now we also want to add some columns to this. So we can do this right from here. I can just call this one title, it's a string, and create column, and we have a new column in the that is so refreshing. I usually like, you have these update statements, and I found this to be sometimes really challenging and like NoSQL databases more, but this really gives us a lot of freedom and flexibility. So I'm going to create a description, which might be a text. Then we probably have a field private, which is an integer, a Boolean. So Boolean default is, let's say, default true. So a set can be private to a user, or you can make a public set of cards. Then you, of course, have a creator. So that should probably be, yeah, that's a string in our case. Probably in other cases you might have a database or another table for the creator stuff. In my case, we're gonna do it like this, and then we're gonna have an image, so we can select the file type, image, file. I don't want to allow multiples, I want to make them public by default, and there we go. Cool thing is we can actually generate some random data. Let's just do like 2. And then it fills this with some random data that you could instantly query. Actually, we should be able to do that. So in my slash function, let's just try this. Let's just have some fun with Xata and the client. So I should be, call this const result equals client, client.database. So that's the one you want to access. And then we have a problem because it doesn't know about our databases yet. And normally we have code completion here with Xata. And to fix this, we need to update our Xata file. And we can do this by using the CLI and running Xata code gen. What this does, it will basically check what you got inside your Xata setup here in the tables. And then it should have updated this, voila, to include one table called sets with all the different types. And the cool thing is that now I can go ahead, and where I previously wanted to do this, I have no code completion for sets. I can just call sets, can I do like get all, and I will return results, result. And what was our run command? npm run start dev. Back to this, insomnia, and we have no results. Great. Why is this not returning any result? Okay, because this is an async call. So you're gonna mark this as async. We await the result. Node mount changes, and finally. I really like to see the critical path in my application work. Like, we have now connected the Xata database to my NodeJS API, and I'm able to query that data. That means I'm thinking about already the Expo application. I will be able to somehow get that data. It doesn't matter if we need all the fields or if anything needs to be changed here, but we have like the critical path implemented. And I really like to do this in the beginning to be sure that the stuff I work on actually works. So that means we now just need more tables, we need real data, and we need some real API endpoints that we can query. Let's do that. First of all, we probably need more tables. So we need an additional table, and I wonder if I can create that table from my code. Let's see. Let's give this a try. Let's write a new function. Actually, we can just rename this to init. So this will be our initial function in which we can like, okay, true, in which we're gonna set up some data that we feed to Xata from our seed database. So this should be called, of course, only once. Let's go ahead with seed sets. And we're gonna need to import all of the sets. Then we can add the seed cards capitals and cards programming, and the auto import should work. So we can get all of this from our seed file. This will create sets for learn the capitals and learn programming languages, and then just like 10 random cards for each of those sets. Now we need to feed that to Xata. So again, I'm using client.database.sets.create this time, and I will pass in my seed sets. Actually, we can't do this for the cards tables, I just noticed, so let's set this up ourselves. Not a big problem. We could also import, no, yeah, it's a table, but I shouldn't call it. You can also import a CSV file. That will probably work just fine as well. So what we need here is, of course, text for question and answer. So let's do this, string, question, and then we have an answer as well, answer. I really like to create the columns. I wish it was like all as easy as this all the time. Then we also might have an image in here, image, yeah, whatever. And then we of course need the relation to sets. So how do we get this? I think we can just add a reference, link to table, column name is set, and it should link to the table sets. Let me put this here so you can definitely see this. Set, link to table, sets. Not going to be unique because you can have multiple cards. And once again, to get that, we're gonna have to run my CodeGen command, which will now update the Xata file to also include the cards columns in here. Let me check. Question, answer, image, and set. That should all be fine. Now, there are just two more tables that we need. So I've previously called them user sets. A user can have its own sets. This is like the whole mass of sets created. Some sets are public, some are not. But we also want to have the user specific sets. So in the user specific sets, we're gonna have a user. Okay, and then we're gonna have a set. So we just have like a link between the user ID and set, link to table, sets once again. Okay, perfect. And finally, we want to track our progress. So let's call this learnings. You could also it's like the learning sessions we had. So a user, oops, I don't want to add a record. A user can learn a specific set. So we're gonna have to create another link to table, set, link to table, sets. Then we have the user ID. So we're gonna do just user. Then we will have how many cards did the user actually do, like cards total. Default value, I don't think we need a default. Then we have wrong cards wrong in that learning session. And then we probably have a score, which I'm doing a float. Okay, so we can calculate like a little score. We have cards wrong, we have cards total. Do we have cards correct? I don't think we had. Let's do cards correct as well. Okay, cards correct. Here we go. I think we have all the tables we need. Let me just do a little comparison between what I previously had and what we have now. So we have a title and description, a private field, a creator field, an image field, and a set should also have a number of cards. So two sets, I will simply update this. Cards, integer default will be 0. That will just make it easier for our app to later display how many, oops, I don't want to do that. How many cards a specific set had. Otherwise, we would have to do another request. So now we got this. I don't want this. I don't want the latest file. Okay, now we got cards with a default value 0. We have all of this. We have the cards with 4 items. We have the user sets and we have learnings. Oh no, that should be called set. Oh, that would have been an ugly mistake. But it's so easy to just update it. I hope at least. Okay, yeah, it's showing me all the other values of set now. So can we probably need to zoom out. You can also, by the way, filter the columns. That's pretty cool. So you can like hide the stuff you don't want to see, and then you can limit the columns you see. Cards total, cards wrong, score, set ID. Can we just delete set link? And now, yes, it will be hidden, and I create this again, and now I don't make a typo, 2 sets, and then we should get this right. And really, like, CodeGen is probably my most favorite command of the CLI, as it just updates this and we get all the latest stuff in here. Do we got everything? I think so. So with all of that in place, we can now seed my database by doing 2 more calls in here, because we can now put in to the cards database, for which we, by the way, now have code completion. We can put in the seeds capitals and the programming cards. So let's hit save, and then let's try to make a get to init. I know get and then it does something. It's not the coolest thing on earth, but we just want to feed this to our database once in the beginning. App listening on port something. Yeah, I should probably not do it like this. Okay, 3K and then init. And if we get okay, that seems good. So let's check out. In sets, we have the 2 sets with a description, that we had 10 cards. That's good. Under cards, we have the cards, and those should be linked to a specific set. So that's pretty cool. We see that we have this link right here to the set table. Otherwise, all the information should be right. We don't have user sets or learnings yet, but that's not a big problem. So now we have some seed data in the database, which is pretty cool. But now let's see how we can actually create the data on our own. This is just so we see something, because now we can easily get all the sets. Okay, yeah, we probably could get all the sets if I had implemented that functionality. Maybe we're gonna do this first. So let's do this. App.get. I kind of don't like to write this line. I really hate to write that line. Usually if I start typing it, Copilot will do it for me. So app.get sets. This should return all the sets in our database. So we can call this, and I actually want to limit this to the sets which are not private. So I will say const sets equals await client.sets, and that means, if you already think about this, we're gonna have to filter the data somehow. So we will select the sets database, and I want to select specific data. I don't want everything back from the database. So the only stuff I want in here is I want to select the ID, title, description, image, and cards. I don't want all the other information because otherwise it will really return everything. Maybe we can comment this out, and then you're going to see the difference. What I want to do as well is I want to filter this, and I want to filter by the private field. So if the private should be set to false, otherwise I would get the private sets of other users, which would be not super cool. And I want to get all the results. And then I can simply return, just like I did before, resource.json, the sets. Okay, let's see. In theory, I should be able to make a call here. Yes, and we get back learn the capitals and learn all the programming languages. So we are getting back the data, but I don't want to have everything included. I already asked them about removing this somehow, but I couldn't really find information about how we can omit that field. Probably that's going to be possible in the future, like the Xata created fields. If I now change this to select the specific fields, I can do the same request, and the result would be a bit shorter. Again, I haven't found a way to remove this, so probably that's coming. Usually I would expect something like this. I don't know, like with NoSQL you can do like minus Xata or something. That's usually not possible here. So we're gonna stick to this for now, as we are able to get all the sets. And with that in place, we can also quickly follow this up by getting a specific set. So we can do get all sets. Then we can also get a single set. Getting a single set simply requires us to pass an ID to this of the specific set. Then we can extract the ID from the request params and call read on the database. So now it's read. Before it was like get all if you want all the results. Now it's read, and then we can return that. So that means we can make a call to the list. And I already think again about like the Expo, the application you want to build, you have the list, then you dive into something and you get more information about it. That means we would pass this ID to a page, and then I would call sets and pass in that ID here. And then it says we cannot get this because I probably haven't saved yet. And voila, now we get this one set back. Usually it makes sense if you leave out a lot of information in the list. So when you have like this big response of all the sets, and then you have all the information when you make a detailed call in here. What we of course need as well is to create a set. So to create a set, we're gonna do a bit different here. We're going to do a post to sets and closing all the brackets. And now we're gonna first of all extract all the information from the body. Quick notice, you should probably validate all these fields from the body and make sure that they're the real or the right value for your database. I'm not going to do this because I really want to keep the code as small as possible here and don't confuse you with more than necessary. Just make a mental note that for a production app, you probably want to verify these fields. Now we can again follow this up. Client, database, to which database do I want to add, or to which table I want to add, sets in this case, and I want to create some data. So I can now pass in all the data that we have. And additionally, I want to add an image here, and I want to check if we actually have an image. So in that case, I want to create my image as base64 content. So that is how it should look to Xata. Base64 content, media type, and I will also enable, actually this is enabled by default. Probably we don't need this. If we don't have an image, we're gonna pass null, otherwise we might run into some problems. And then we can return our new set. Okay, let's try this out. Let's try to create a new set. Do I actually have a call for that? Learn a set, get cards, init, add a new set, add a card. Of course I don't have that. So let's duplicate that at set. Add set. That should make a call to a post call to sets. And now we need to fill these fields. So title, learn about Simon. And then we need the description, whatever, I have no idea. We can actually keep it like that. Let's make private false. False. Do we need anything else? We need the creator. Okay, we can actually pass in null for the creator as far as I know. And we don't, yeah, let's just not do this and then let's try to send this. Okay, it creates this card 0 description, I have no idea, creator, yada yada yada, and in my database we have a new record, and I really like this state where you can like get in the flow, and I can now get my sets, I can see the set, I can get the details, and it really feels good at this point when you get into the groove of just using the database and really like modeling out the stuff that you want to build. So I think this is pretty much all we need for set. We probably want to have a function to delete a set, although we won't really delete the actual set. What I want to delete instead is if the user has a set. So for that, let's probably bring in some code for that first. So what I want is a user can basically say, hey, I want a copy of this set. And that means I will pass in my user and the ID of that set. So I picked that from the list probably. And then under user sets, I will create this connection between the user and a set. So I can say like, oh, this is one of my favorite sets. At the same time, we also need, of course, a get function to get all the user sets. So that's going to be pretty much the same like before. We're going to use user sets. We're going to filter by the current user. We'll pass just from our app an ID to the API, and I want to select the ID and all the information about a specific set. So let's test these two. First of all, I will call myself, what's my user ID? I don't know. I'm going to like 42 or something. So to add a user set, I can say this is my ID and I want to favorite this set. If I send this, I get back this connection of user sets. Now, if I want to get, let's put this probably up here. If I want to get all my user sets, I'm going to pass in my ID up here, and that should return this one set I just bookmarked or added as a favorite. We can, of course, also confirm this by checking out Xata in the browser. So we have one connection between this user and a specific set of cards. Now, if I want to get rid of this, I should be able to make a what call? A delete call to sets/ID. No. Let's see. Actually, I think we don't really need the delete call. For reference, I will add this, but I think we won't actually implement the remove functionality in our app finally. So what I did is I created this function. Okay, let's go through all of this, for which you can pass in an ID of a set. That will first of all search the user sets if the user actually has a set with that ID. Because we need to be careful, I don't want to remove the set from the sets table, I want to remove it from the user sets table. So once we got that, we can then remove, we can go through all the existing sets of a user and then remove it. So being a bit careful to, oh yeah, it's actually, I'm sorry about the bad explanation here. It is still early morning. I still need to drink a bit of my coffee. The problem here is that I kind of want to cascade the delete. I definitely want to delete it from all the sets, but before I can like delete the set template, which like 10 users might be using, I might have to remove the references. That's like cascading. I think it's actually on the roadmap of Xata to implement Cascade. Probably it's already implemented at that point, but right now I had to manually delete all the user sets first, and then I could delete the actual parent set from which we kind of cloned this. So be aware of that. Okay, we have all the user sets. We have the ability to get all the user sets. So that means we can now move into the realm of cards. If we want to create a new card, we need to pass in some information. Can we grab like this one? This sounds good. So I want to make a post to cards. And what I want to do at this point is I want to extract, first of all, the information from the body. The set ID, the question, and the answer. This will probably be a card in a second. Now I can create that card. Const card equals await client.database cards table. Create a new entry. And actually I could just like pass in the body, but I will be a bit careful, at least a tiny bit careful. And answer. So we can use the shorthand here, which will use these values directly. Okay, that will create the card. Now there's one more thing I want to do. If we add a card, where's my Xata? Where's Xata? Is this my workspace? No, not really. Xata, where are you? If I add a card to a set, I want to increase the number of cards here. Okay, so this value should be increased by 1. And we can do this directly in this call. So we can say if we actually created that new card, I want to await client.database.sets, and I want to update my set. So that should be still the ID. And what I want is, I don't really want to like get the number and then increase it. I can just say cards and then pass in $increment by 1. And then we'll just increment the cards count in my table. And then we'll still return that card. So let's give this a try. We can probably create a card for like my cool set here that has currently 0 cards. All the 2 other we created from the seed data have 10. Let's go to Insomnia, and I want to add a card. The set is this. Okay, we have some question and answer. I will create that, and voila, we have 1 card. So we have automatically implemented that, and at the end of the list we also have this new card added down here with the right link to that set. So that means user can already create a set of cards, user can add cards to the set. That's pretty good. Now we just need a way to like get all the cards of a set, which is pretty easy. This is using the same stuff we already had before. So we can probably just use a query param, and then I can say like set ID equals the set ID, and then I would get the cards for a specific set by calling database cards, select. I want to have actually everything in the set included, and I would just want to filter by something and then get all the cards. Let's try this out in Insomnia. I should have a call, for get cards with a set ID, and then I would get back all these cards here. That is already pretty good. We could probably leave it at that for learning. However, I came up with a little idea to make this even more fun. So I implemented this function cards/learn, which does pretty much the same like our /cards, but it will then give us a random set of cards using the limit parameter. So we could pass in like 3, 5, 10, and then we would get that amount of random cards. So it would not be the same order. As you know, learning with flashcards, it's all about like learning different cards. We don't really have AI included and stuff, and like what's the card you knew best, but this is a clone, so it's not like a perfect implementation. I'm gonna leave something at least open to you. So let's say I want to learn a set, cards, learn set ID, and I'm pass in the limit 5. You see up here we have a limit of 5 and we have the set ID included as a query param. Or I could also set limit 3. As a result, I get back 3 questions. If I do this, so here we have like which Golang, C#, and Perl. If I do it again, structured query language, Ruby, C#. So we really get some random cards, which makes implementing our app even more fun. Now, there are just 2 endpoints missing that we need, and those are to create like the end of a learning session. So we start a session with this learn function, which will get us random cards. User will do the fun in the app. We store like wrong cards, right cards. And then at the end, once the user has done the 10 or 5 cards, we're going to post to our learnings endpoint. And we're going to specify the user, the current set, and how many cards the user learned and how many were right or wrong. And based on that, we just create an object with some values like a fake score. We're going to keep track of the cards the user did right or wrong, and we're going to store this in our learnings database. And just like that, we probably also want to have the learning progress. So on a profile page, we can then show from a specific user all the learning sessions, and we can see like if the score got better over time. That is everything for the API. You can try out the different endpoints with Insomnia or any other testing tool, but I think we have everything that we need. We should be able to see all the sets in a list. We should be able to see the details of a set. We can then add the set to a specific user. We just need to take care of some fake user ID in our app. Users can create set. Users can add cards to a specific set. That means I think we have everything in place for our app. So if you came this far, probably try it out a bit in Insomnia or Postman, or check out the according code that I had up on GitHub. If you made any mistakes, or if your configuration with NodeMon or the environment is not yet working, if you changed anything in Xata, make sure that you once again run Xata CodeGen. As far as I know, we should be good in my application, and I have this file set up with everything, all the types that we need, and then we can head over to the Expo React Native application. Okay, so at this point you should have the API up and running, and we can directly dive into our Expo app by running npx create Expo app, or you could also use bun if you want to, Anki app, and I will use the tabs template. Why am I using the tabs template? Because 1, I want to actually implement a tab bar. But 2, this includes the file-based routing from Expo, and that's what we want to use in this tutorial. So we want to use the latest and greatest technology. On top of that, we're gonna have to install a few packages. So we're gonna have to install Reanimated, as we will use that to introduce a small animation here and there in our application. We will need the image picker, and we will of course open this with Visual Studio Code once again. So here we go, let's put this up, and then I will quickly follow this up. Don't worry, I will zoom in one. No, I will actually not do it like this. I will do it with the workspace zoom. No, not 40, 4 is enough. Okay, so the first package I installed was React Native Reanimated. Now we will go ahead with the Expo image picker, because we will later pick some images and upload them. Then additionally, what we want to have is, hello. We want to have the React Native async storage package. So the idea here is to, when the app loads, we're going to create a random ID for the user, and that's how we're going to manage the user sets and the user created sets. In a real world example, you would probably have real users, you would have a login authentication in place, but we won't have that today. Finally, I will also install the Xata client, so that will help us to more easily use Xata in our application. And what we need as well at this point is some setup. So let's see. we will create a new .env file. And under that env file, you're gonna put the URL to your server. So in my case, it is up and running, I hope at least. And yep, it's running and listening on port 3K. So this will be my public URL. Then we can create a new file at data. I always love this bug with Visual Studio Code. At data/api.ts. And within that file, we're gonna do all the calls to our app. So let's start with some setup code in here. Oh yeah, I think you have to run npx expo at least once to install TypeScript correctly. Port is already running. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I don't want that. Let's do it again. So let's press I to open this up on iOS. Okay, and here is the Expo application. It will probably be covered a tiny bit by my head. So here's how it looks, but later on that should be fine. So I don't want to waste too much of the space here and use it for coding. And this is really confusing in the background. Again, if you want to see all the code, if something is too fast, please check out the GitHub repository. There's also the folder for the Enki application. You can check out the environment and you can check out the package.json for all the packages that I used in case you encounter any problems with your Expo app. All right, now the first part here is that I want to import async storage in my API file. I want to get the Expo public API URL from our env file, and I will define this key for the user ID. And I want to have these two interfaces for a set of cards, just like the setup we had before, and for a card. And with that in place, I honestly don't know if we really need to go through all of these on our own, or if you should pretty much just check it out on GitHub, because this is going to be really boring. So here is the API. If you look at this, this is basically just doing fetch calls to our API and sending some kind of body to get the sets, to delete a set, to get my sets. I think I will just copy this and we can focus on some other cooler things about our application in a second. So let's bring this in. Let's quickly go over it. So to create a set, we will use the async storage user key as like my user ID, then making a post request to our API with all the information of the set and our creator. To get all the sets, we make a fetch call to get the sets. To delete a set, we can make the same call here to get my sets. I will make an API call to user sets and pass the user as a query ID. Really just going through all the stuff we implemented with the API. Only interesting thing here is that I will map the data when I get my sets. Because you can imagine this is going to be the list of your favorite sets, but you shouldn't be allowed to edit them. So I add this can edit here, and this will only be set to true if you are actually the creator of that set. Then we have the get set, which will get the details of one set. We have add to favorites. So this is basically adding it to the user sets if you found one that looks good to you. And then we move on into the cards. This will get learn cards with a limit. Remember how we in the first part set this up to get a random card, 3, 5, 10 random cards for a specific set, or how to get all cards for a set. And of course also the create card, which will pass a card, actually a partial of a card, to that endpoint, since we probably don't have all the information of that card. So a card has answer ID, and of course the card has no ID if we just create it. So this is just preventing a TypeScript problem that we will get when calling this create card function. And if we want to save our learning progress, we pass all the information and use our user storage key. Same here to get the learnings. So this file is really just about contacting our API and having everything in one place. But it's not really fancy, so good thing we covered this right here in the beginning. Now, let's do something more fun, and that is using the Expo file-based routing. So under app, we have all of this. I actually will get rid of Honestly, I get rid of everything here, and yeah, the problem is I will get rid of everything. The problem is that I really want to do my own setup, and it's just too confusing for you if we just remove a line here and remove a line there. So that's not going to be helpful for you. Let's better start fresh with a new index.ts page. And on that page, we're gonna make something important. So on that page, we will check if the user has an ID. By the way, I have another video, or did we do this on a stream about MMKV? That is even cooler. But I don't want to do like a custom client today and just use the Expo Go app. So MMKV, a way to get your stored values in a synchronous way even faster. Just a little recommendation from my side. Okay, initially I will say the user has no ID. Then we will implement a use effect here that will run in the beginning. It will just run once. That's all we need. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and load the ID, which is going to be an async function. And then I will call that function here, load ID. Okay, and in my view, actually we could, yeah, we're going to do it like this. So if the user has an ID, we can just redirect the user to the right page. So we can return a redirect. Where is it? Oh, come on. Redirect from Expo router. Redirect. And I want to redirect to the href something. I feel like this does not like what I'm doing. Why do you not like this? Probably. Let's try and fix this. Okay, what's your problem right now? Did we mess up the use effect somewhere? No, we shouldn't. If has ID, we're gonna return this. Should be closed, of course. The whole redirect seems to be really mad with me. And I wonder why. Is it still about TypeScript? I really think this is a TypeScript issue. We're using TypeScript. Sometimes Expo is not picking this up correctly. Let's try. Nope, no chance at all. This is very strange, but let's continue up here. So the load ID, we're gonna fix this in a second. I just hope we could like make this not red, but we're gonna fix this in a second. I think I found this. I made this mistake so many times now. This is of course a TSX file, not just a TS file. Okay, there we go. I dodged that bullet. I kind of figured this out in time. Okay, so we want to check if the user already has this ID. This is our fake mechanism. So I will just say async storage dot get item, and I want to get the user storage key. So that's why I introduced the const before. If we don't have an ID yet, so if we don't have an ID, I will create that ID, and I will do this with a random function. So let's say random user ID generated here. I can actually put this in the log, and then I will call await async storage dot set item. For the user storage key, I want to set my random user ID. And once we get that, I can also call set has ID with the new ID, and then everyone will be happy. Now, where do we redirect the user? We want to implement a tab bar in our application. So we'll actually do a tabs group here. Check out my, by the way, that should be a folder. I'm sorry. Check out my other video on routing. Actually, that was a live stream where I covered pretty much everything about the Expo router and how you can do it. So in here, I will create a new file, a layout, and I love it. I just love it. Layout.tsx. I'm gonna call this layout, and that will return a tabs layout. So we can use tabs from Expo router. We don't really have to return anything else at this point. I will just put 3 tabs next to it. So tab 1 will be sets.tsx. So this will be user sets. And then we're going to copy that. New file search.tsx. That's where we're going to search for sets. And then we're going to have a profile.tsx, in which we're going to display like the learning progress. Okay, cool. So profile, search, sets. And to show all of these as tabs, we probably, will this pick it up correctly? I'm not sure about it, but let's give it a try. Yeah, set has ID. Argument of type string is not assigned. Okay, yeah, I just want to say, sorry, I just want to say true. And now we can redirect the user if we have an ID to /tabs/sets. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's do a complete refresh. And what we see is that we are brought to some page. It looks interesting. It looks like we kind of have a tab bar, but we also have something around it. That's probably because we haven't set up the topmost layout file. So let's add that as well. But we also see that it kind of works. That is good. That's good news. So let's add another layout.tsx here. React Native functional export layout. At the top, I actually want to display like a route navigation. So this is going to be a stack now. So stack from Expo router. For the stack, I want to define some screen options. And to do that, I want to add some colors. We actually have colors, but I'm going to replace this. So now we have a cool primary purple Xata color here. And eventually we're also gonna do like a general styles file. So let's do this up here as well, styles.ts. Then we can have some shared styles in here. We can just import style sheet and then export const default style sheet. If we have something that should be shared across our pages, we can just keep it in here like a button or whatever input styling. Okay, good setup. Components, we don't really need them, so I'm going to remove them to simplify our setup. And now in the topmost layout file, we're gonna have to do some work. First of all, we see that by implementing this stack layout at the top level, we have kind of improved our app. So we have now tabs, sets, and we have our tab bar. In general, it works. In detail, it doesn't, because we have like 2 headers and we don't really have our styling yet. So let's get into this. First of all, I want to say some screen options up here. And for the screen options, I want to specify the header style. And my header style should have a background color of colors. And now we're importing our constants dot primary. So that already turns our header up here into the right color. One thing I noticed is that I actually would like to use these relative imports, and we can get this since Expo, I think 48 or something. Was it 49? I'm not sure. And we can do this by defining the base URL and the path array here in the tsconfig. And then moving into the app.json and saying under experiments, not only type routes true, but also tsconfig path true. So that will allow us the following. And everyone's happy. And that just, yeah, we probably need to completely reload. Oh yeah, you know, everyone's mad at me. Let's just stop this and run it again. But it should normally work in a second. Unless I really messed up something. Please don't turn red. Please don't turn red. Oh yeah, good. Okay, with that in place, we can put in some more. Additionally, at this point, I want to put the header tint color to a white color. Now, that was all pretty cool. The problem is that this only styled up here and not really what we want. So not really the actual stacks. So how can we achieve this now? Well, we have to probably do the same setup, but in our actual tab file. And additionally, I don't want to show the header on the tabs group. And we can do this by including First of all, making sure that we follow the right syntax here, and then including a specific entry for the stack screen. So the Expo router is normally automatically picking up all the routes, but if you want to do something custom, you can just do it in here. So for tabs, I want to have some options, and my options are that I want header shown to be false. Now, that fails because I haven't closed the object, but with that in place, it removes this unnecessary header that comes from the stack layout up here. Now I need to go into the tabs layout, and for the tabs, do pretty much the same. So we want to add the screen options. I want to import my colors, and then we have the header in a nice color here as well. Additionally, it would be pretty cool to have also the right kind of icons down there. So let's see how we can change that. For that, we're gonna have to specify again manually the different screens of our tab bar. So first, tabs.screen would probably be name sets. So that's the name of the file. See here, sets, and then we're gonna do something similar for say search and profile. And I'm going to close this. And what we want to do is want to specify some options here as well. In these options, you can do everything you want. So you can start by giving it, first of all, a real title, as this is usually just using the default from the route. So we can change this to my sets. Now we can also change the tab bar icon down here. And we can set this, and we actually want to destructure it and use size and color. So this is applied correctly to our new icon. And we can use these from the ionicons, which should be bundled with Expo. So you can import them from Expo vector icons. And then you can specify the name. So I want this to be home, and will actually be, or show you a warning if that doesn't exist. So home outline, size, color, what are you mad about right now? Tab bar icon. Okay, yeah, this should be regular brackets. Okay, at this point, we should have a different icon, as you can see, but it's really tiny because we haven't used the size and the color. So that's the trick here. So now we can use that and say size equals size, and color equals color. And by doing that, we have fixed this and it's using the right color. Only problem is that this is actually not the color I want to use. So this is a different color. I think we have to specify this as well up here. So we have header tint, and we want tab bar active tint color as well to be colors.primary. And voila, now we have a nice styling here. Good, now we just need to do this 2 more times for the other tabs. Actually, this is going to be quite repetitive. So let me bring it in. We have the search screen. So we're gonna use a search outline icon, and then we have profile with a person outline. Again, just the same setup like before. And with that, we have finished our, without noticing, we have finished our setup here. That's pretty cool. There's just one more thing I would like to include, and that's on the sets screen. I would actually like to have a header right icon. Probably you can put this in here, which will allow us later to create a set. So let's open this and let's put in a link component. So using Expo router, link requires an href. I will just put this to / for now, so it's happy. And then we use asChild as we are wrapping touchable opacity. Otherwise, this is not going to work. So you're gonna have to use asChild here. Style, probably we need some styling as well. And then we're gonna put in ionicons, name, add, outline. Normally we should get code completion, by the way, for the ionicons. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is putting a tiny thing up there. Let's probably say size is something like 24. Yeah, that looks better. And color is white. Okay, yeah, and then we need some margin right. Okay, actually we probably could have like 26. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Okay, and with that, yeah, it's completely not doing what we want to do. We're gonna replace the link, but later this will help us to create a new set. So at this point, we have our Expo application set up. We have a tab bar with routing. At the same time, when our app loads, we should get the user ID. So let's put down a little lock here and see if I reload my app, it already shows that this automatically generated ID is my user ID. Yeah, okay, in a real world scenario, imagine you're gonna have a real user login probably and then get that ID, but we have a user with an ID, and that means we can now list out the sets, and when the user wants to copy or favorite one, we have the right user ID, and that's the next screen we wanna tackle now. Alright, so now let's talk about the search screen, which basically means we want to browse the library of available sets. Then we want to get into a specific set. So by clicking on one of the sets, we want to open a modal. And in that modal, I want to have a button that says, okay, I want to learn this set. And then it should basically be transferred to my sets. So the user has it available under his or her own sets. That is the broad idea. Let's get started. We do already have the API function in place. So remember, before we came up with the API, we have some interfaces here, and we should have a call to get all the sets. And that's what we're going to do. So I will introduce some state here, const sets and set sets. That's awesome. Let's do use state, and that's going to be an array of sets, and in the beginning it's actually going to be an empty array. Can we import this? Not with Copilot. Can we just like import this from my data? Yeah, just like this. This is how it should be. And by the way, I also want to do something else. I want to do a refresher, and it's going to be refreshingly easy. That joke is refreshing. Set is refreshing, and this is going to be use state false in the beginning. So we're going to have a list with a refresher component. So we got this pull to refresh. In order to call the function to refresh, we're gonna create this as load sets with an async function. And within our function, we will then simply grab the data by calling await get sets from our API. Get sets, please. Not get my sets. Just get sets. Get sets. I don't know why. Okay, we already got that one. So perfect. And then we're gonna call set sets with the data we got here. Cool. That should hopefully lock out the data. Now we can just throw in our casual use effect, which will be called once in the beginning with an empty dependencies array. And then we're gonna call load sets here. That should, if we check out the logs, print some data. So data, cards, description, and whatever. By the way, didn't we add like an image? Oh, we probably need to upload an image in a second as well, so to have some dummy data. But we're gonna get to that soonish. For now, we probably need the default container styling. So let's add this to our shared styles here. So the default container with a flex 1, that's what I usually use in many pages. So therefore I will share it. But on top of that, we will also have our own styles here. So let's put this down here. Style sheet from React Native dot create. And then we're gonna probably have our own styles as well. Let's get started here by using our default style sheet dot container. So that was the whole idea. Then we are using the whole view, and then we will introduce our flat list component from React Native. This is going to be pretty easy as we just need to pass in our sets as the data. And then we need a function or a render item function. So usually for a flat list, you can do your own render set row. I like to do this in its own function. This is actually, we can have some types here, list render item, and then we have a set. So this is not a JavaScript set or map or something. This is actually our own set. And then we get the item, which is then actually of the type set. So we get a nice code completion. Const render set row list. Okay, we are not returning anything. So this is why this is probably mad with us. So if we start and return a view, everyone would be happy. text test. Okay, now for the flat list, we just need to specify the render item function, which is render set row, and refreshing. Are we still connected? Yes. Oh no, I did all of this on the wrong screen. No, I wanted to do this on the search screen. No, that was confusing. I was confusing myself. So I will post this here in the search screen, and then I will revert the set screen. So no big deal, no big deal. Just fixing this from my sets, and then on the search screen we have 3 elements. Okay, so nothing but value was lost. That means we can now render our sets, and because we have the information here in TypeScript, that should probably be pretty easy. Now, what we want to change as well is that all of these should actually link to something that we can then open. For that, we need to touch our routing a bit. Let's do a new folder, and I'm going to do this at the top level and call this modal. So we're going to group some modals in here. And then I will also add a new folder, set, and under set I will add a file id.tsx. And this here is going to be the page that will be opened once we click on a specific set here. So by having the ID here, we can pass the ID of that element to that page. And to display this as a modal, we can include it in our topmost layout file. So let's add a new entry down here for stack.screen. Name in this case would be modals /set/ID. So we can really specify the exact file path and then specify our options just like before and close it at some point. Most importantly, we want to have the presentation modal, and probably we can also fix the title already and say the title of that page is like, I don't know, something. Do we actually need that? I think we just set this to an empty string for now. Okay, we've included the page. No something. What if I reload? No route name modals set ID. Is that the case? Oh yeah, this was no group. This was the right path. Okay, now everyone's back and happy. And we can go back to our page now. So back to the search page, and we can wrap our list render now in a link component. So this is the Expo router link component where we can put in an href, and then we're able to see all the different pages that we could reach. In fact, why is this not showing the modal? Did I create this at the wrong place? No. I feel pretty good about this. Did I not save my modal? Something like that can happen all the time. We're going to the page with a specific ID. Let's see. Yeah, okay, it would be fine if we do it like this, and then it opens. Okay, this is good news. Link component is working and modal is working. Okay, that's good. Good start. Let's probably fix this by using a string literal. We can also pass the ID in a different way, but what we can do is we can just say, okay, please use item.id, and then we're able to extract that ID here on that page to retrieve the actual information. On top of that, we need to put everything else as child in here, and then I will use a touchable opacity, so the actual row looks like something I can touch. Touchable opacity from React Native. For the style, we probably need something, let's call this set row. So we're gonna define this in a second down here, but for now I just want to make sure that I close the touchable opacity and everyone's happy again. Okay, we got that. Now, we're gonna display some information here. Let's do style. We probably will need some style here. But most importantly, we're gonna have a text element which displays the item.title. So we have a nice code completion again. And at this point, we finally see the sets that we created. So that's big progress. On top of that, we can also display the item.cards, saying we have like 10 cards for each of those sets. And then we probably want to have an icon. So now we're gonna have to style this correctly. That means I will give this block a flex of 1. And I'm going to put an icon behind this. Name chevron forward something. Chevron forward outline. Size, I don't know, like 24, and color CCC. Let's try this one out. Okay, so our set row is certainly not using a flex layout, or it's not using the direction row. It is using a flex layout, of course, but not the right direction here. Why this one's, let's probably just wrap a view around this here. View style equals flex direction row. Okay. Okay, yeah, I need to close this and wrap the view around all of our items here in the touchable opacity. Then we have the arrow already here, so the setup is somewhat correct. We'll probably also render an image here in the first slot, but we're gonna get to that in a second. And maybe we should introduce a little gap as well. Okay. Now, in terms of general styling for our set row, we should probably add some padding. So let's add a padding of like 16, then everything already becomes a lot more clear. We're gonna add a background color, white, in here. So then we should have, yeah, then they look like this. And we can probably have a border color. Let's use a border bottom width of 1, and a border bottom color from our color, from the colors from the constants of light gray. So we have a nice little separation here between them, and for each of them we can trigger our modal. Probably we want to make our row title a bit bigger. So let's add a new row title here using font size 16 and font weight 500. Sorry, okay. Come on, like this. And then we can assign the row title here to our title, styles.row title. Okay, this is becoming more beautiful every second. For our text down here, I just want to use a different color. So let's use, we could probably make its own object, but I will just do it in here. Let's use colors dot dark gray. So then the text becomes a tiny bit more gray. We have the button, everything seems to be aligned nicely. Yeah, we could probably also add the reload real quickly. That's something I found to be, again, really refreshing. Oh, that joke, it's so bad. So you add a flat list component, you can add a refresh control. And what we want to use is a refresh control from React Native. Refreshing state is using our state, so is refreshing. And on refresh basically means you drag this down and then you want to call something. You have a function, so we pass in our load sets. Then I just need to close the brackets in the right places without... Okay, I think it's like this. Yeah, and you see up there we have the refreshing control. You can also have like a loading thing. So now if I call this, nothing changes, but if I add one more learn about React, I send this to my API, and then I do a refresh, then I have learn about React in here. So that's how fast you can actually add a refresh control. Again, what learned, as we would say in Germany. Let's take a sip of coffee on that. Cold coffee, love it. All right. What I'm missing right now is an image. I definitely want to have an image. So for all of my sets, at least for the legit ones, I want to have an image. I will do this in Xata. We can later upload images through the app. For now, I will just do it like this. So let me pick some random images from stuff I did for galaxies. This is fun. This is fun as well. So then we have 2 images. I honestly don't know if they're now. Yeah, they're public. That's good. That's good news. So if they're public, we should be able to access them. Let's see. I'm going to close this and I'm going to check out the logs. Yep, there seems to be a URL. Actually, I'm going to press open the debugger because I think here you can see the objects a tiny bit better. So if I refresh now, we're going to see this is the data. And image is now an object with a URL. I hope this URL works. Let's figure out. Yes, perfect. So we should be able to display that image simply from the URL. As you can see, the image is stored with Xata, so they're uploading it probably to AWS. Yeah, or I don't know where exactly, but they're uploading our image, or at least handling the storage of that image. So image.url is our friend. Let's close this, get back to our row, and put in an image. Actually, we should probably only render this if we have an image. So if item.image exists, in that case, I will render an image. I will render a simple React Native image component using source URI, and then we can probably pass in just item.image.url. And we need to specify style here. Then we're going with width of 50 and height of 50 as well. And then a border radius of 8. Okay, let's see. No, I put a string somewhere in here. I hate that error. But I love this. I love seeing these cards. I could probably, if item, we could render not item.image and a view, which is like just 50 times 50. Would that work? With 50, height 50. I don't know if that would work. If okay, yeah. Too many brackets in here. Yeah, now that will even look better. So now we have like a fallback as well. What else we got is, by the way, a cool transform image function. And that is the reason why I installed the Xata client in the beginning. So we can at this point simply import transform image from the Xata client. And on the fly, we can now apply transform image here on item image URL. And we need to pass in the object here, and we can say width like 50, height, but I think that is going really, then we get back like a super tiny image. Let's see. Or yeah, URL hostname is not implemented. That is good news because I think I had that before. That is the reason why we installed the React Native URL polyfill. And this will now go to our topmost layout file up here. So import React Native URL polyfill. This is what fixes the problem with transform image. Now, what you notice here is that these images get really blurry if you set down the quality like this. But that means also that transform image is working and it just returns the correct image. Probably we'll just use 100 times 100. That should in theory be a really small image anyway. You can, by the way, also apply blur and other things, which is pretty cool. So in the past I used Cloudinary as well, which worked great. But now with Xata, we also get these image transformations out of the box, which I really enjoyed about using it. So I think this screen is actually somewhat finished. We're able to list out all the sets available. We can open a modal. And now it's time to talk about that modal. So let me go there. And on the page of the modal, we will first of all extract the ID using use local search params from the Expo router. So then I should be able to log this out. Let's see. And there is the ID of our record. And as you learned before, if we get that ID, we are able to make an API call and actually load the information. So what we need is some state here. So let's add the import, and this is going to be a set just like before. Can we just like import this all the time correctly? It shouldn't be that hard. Okay, and I probably also want to manually close this, so I will inject the router as well. Use router from the Expo router, and then we can use use effect. And when this is called, we will watch the ID as a dependency. So when the ID change, which is hopefully only does once. So if we don't have an ID, and yeah, JavaScript, we still need brackets. If we don't have an ID, we will return, and otherwise we will call a function loadSet, which is an asynchronous function using one of our API calls. Const data equals await get set using the ID, and yeah, I'm using an exclamation mark here. No, I don't need an exclamation mark. It's mad about types. Oh yeah, TypeScript. No, we're not starting any TypeScript discussion. This is easily fixed by typing this and saying there is an ID string, and then everything works. Don't complain about TypeScript. TypeScript is your friend. And then we call set, I think. No, not set interval. set with my data. And don't forget to actually call this function. Okay, so this is our function to load the data of one specific set, which then returns all the information again, plus anything else you might have. It's just good case or a good idea in general to use the Expo router like this, where you just pass around these IDs and not whole objects. Otherwise, you could use state like selected object and then share that state, but no, we're not doing this today. Okay, my view here will use the default style sheet .container once again. And then if I do have a set, so if I have the data of a set, you could also implement like a loading state here. Then I want to render all the information about this set. So let's start with a little view. Okay. Oh no, I need to close that view. And that view will align all the items using Flashcard, some padding, and gap and fill the whole view. And you should probably not close it immediately because I want to render some items inside. So I want to first of all render text, my set.title. And let's see. Okay, learn programming languages. Yeah, we should definitely have some styling here as well. So let's define this down here. Style sheet from React Native. I should definitely have a snippet for that. I think I do actually have one, but I think I never used it before. So let's put the font size here to something really big, like 24, and the font weight to something bold. And then we can apply the style to this one. And then we have a nice screen, and let's try it out. Yes. So we're able to get all the data of the different sets in our database, and we just need to piece together the rest of the information. So below the title, we can display how many cards we got. And then we can do the same if the set has an image. So if the set has an image and we want to display an image component using the same source like we did before. And of course, oh, come on, it's not that hard to import image. I didn't want to complain about TypeScript, but I definitely want to complain about Visual Studio Code. It shouldn't be that hard to display it here. Okay, so anyway, we got the image. That's at least good news. Then we can probably also render the description here. So set.description could be rendered. That could probably be a bit longer text. And you can also render the creator if you want to. I have not created these, or yeah, though I don't have a creator name, so they look pretty boring. But these are the legit ones that we created with the API. Now, below all of this, I want to have a button. I actually want to have the button at the bottom. So I'm going to put a view in here. I'm going to align the items probably. And I created some styling up front for a bottom button. I will put this in here. So this is my styling for a bottom button. This will be positioned absolute at the bottom with a width of 300 using our background color and some padding and some other stuff. This is essentially a button that should be rendered at the bottom of a view, and we're going to reuse this in other places again. So now with that in place, I will put in a touchable opacity down here, and that touchable opacity will use default style sheet dot bottom button. And on press, we will call a function to add this set to my user favorites. So we'll call this on add to favorites equals something async yada 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 to be defined. And this goes in here. And now I just need some text in the button, add to favorites. And as a result, we have a button that looks for now like this. So we also need a button text now. Actually, I have two more stylings. We have also a generic button that we can define in our styles. So let's go back to the styles and put in two more. This will be a generic button with a background color and like just a regular button. And this is a button text for my bottom button or the button. Let's go back here to the ID page. Right, this is where we were working. And for my add to favorites, I will use the style default styles dot button text. As a result, it already looks like this. The only thing I want to do is I want to position this in the center. So now what I wanted to do initially becomes important, and that is to call align items center here. Yes, and now we got the button in the center. This is exactly how I envisioned that view. So this is really easy catchable for my thumb down there, and I can quickly add something to my favorites. Good. I'm going to put this back here because you've seen the button, so now my head can cover that area again. And what we need to do here is actually pretty easy. We're going to await add to favorites from my API calls, and the set I have to pass in is just my ID here. And once this is done, I will call router dot. That's a good question. I actually feel like I want to go somewhere. Let's push and let's try for tabs sets. I want to go to the user tabs after we have added this. Let's see. Right now, do we have the chance to quickly check out that view? Probably we can do this. Let's do on the sets page, we can do the same logic like we had on all the other pages. Add all missing imports, get my sets, and then I would probably at some point call sets data. But for now, I will just log this out here. So at this moment, we have no data. I can also open the debugger again. Ooh, what was that? I usually like this. Let's do a refresh. So my sets here is an empty array. I go here, I click learn the capitals. I add this to my favorites. It closes that screen. It brings me to my sets. And we did not yet reload the data. Okay, we did not reload. I'm fine. Let's do a manual reload. And then we do have that one item. By the way, we implemented this before in the API, so it does not only include an ID and the actual set, but also if the user can edit it or not. We're gonna make use of that information later. For now, let's see. For now, I think this is the most important part that we covered. So we're able to see all the sets. We could probably also implement the search, which would work quite easy as Xata allows that the data to be searched as well. But I think we're gonna leave it at this as we're able to refresh this. So once we add sets, we're able to see this in here. We can see the details. We also learned now how to use images with Xata and how to actually transform them on the fly like we did. And we can add them to our favorites, and then they will show up on the My Set screen in case we have the right loading logic in place, which we will eventually do. So now I have two objects here. And actually, no, I did not create one of these, so I can't edit these. Okay, to edit something, we need to implement more functionality, because right now we can only learn with specific sets that the community created, or we can't, but in theory we could learn. But now I want to implement that we can also add our own sets. So we need to create sets and we need to upload cards to sets, and that's what we're going to do next. In order to create the set, we need cards, but first of all, we need the actual set information, then we can assign cards to that set. We started already in the beginning when we defined the tabs layout file and added this header. So this plus button here comes from the header right option we defined here. And for that, we're gonna now add a new file under the set folder. I will call this create.tsx. So that will be React Native functional export page. Here we go. And then we can include this here now correctly. So the URL would now be /modals /set/create. Additionally, I want to do the same thing. So before we define this for our ID screen here, I want to define this now for create as well. Presentation is modal. I will give this a name, create card set. And as a result, we should be able, yes, to reach that page. Actually, I would like to include a close button. Same here. So for that, we can also inject the router real quickly. So use router from Expo router. Let's make sure we have no typo. And then we can include this. It doesn't actually matter on which page we do. We do this on both. So header left will be a new button. And this will be touchable opacity again from React Native on press. The only thing we need to call is actually router.back. So that should close any kind of modal that's open. And then we're going to include ionicons, name, close outline. And for the size, we will do what we had before, like 24. And for the color, we will use white. Okay, close this. And then let's see. This was for the set. So yeah, we have the close button up here and it closes this thing. And we're going to paste this down here so we can reuse this. When we create a new set, we also have that. So for everyone who does not know that you can close this by swiping down, we also now support a close button. Good. With that in place, I think we can head over to the create page. So on that page, we need to capture some general information, just like we did in Insomnia. To add a set, we need title, description, and private field. Creator will be automatically filled by our data. And we also want to have the image. So let's start with some state up here. No, I didn't want to do that. Some state up here and import from Expo and this. So we have title, description, private, and image. We can also start with the, or at least add the pick image function here. So async function, and then we do something. And then we also need one more function on create set, which will basically call the function of our API. So const new set equals await a call to create set from the API, passing in all the information. Now it becomes really handy that we set partial set. So if we had not created partial here, if this was strictly expecting a set, you see it immediately turns red because we don't have all the information of the set. But by saying partial, we give us the freedom that this might not completely satisfy the set interface. If I create a new set, I will also directly add this as a favorite. So add to favorites with new set dot ID. Do we actually need this? No. And then we can close the modal, so we can call router.back. Okay, so that's everything we want to do on finishing it. Now the actual view comes, and we want to do the bottom button thing again. So I will actually wrap this in a fragment, and then we're gonna have a view here. Oh, thanks for the code completion. That was so unnecessary. Then we're gonna have a view here which holds all the input form stuff, and then we're gonna have a button at the bottom using the same code like we had before. So we're gonna add the default style sheet import, and as a result, let's see, why is the button not showing up yet? Probably because we need to apply some styling here to the view first. But that should basically, it's the same button like we had before. It will, I'm pretty sure it will appear in time. So let's focus on this view. This view also needs some styles. So for the style sheet here, I actually want to combine different styles. So I want the default container styling, but I will also add some margin top now to make the input fields not so sticky, and margin horizontal of like 16. That also shows the button. Nice, good. So we have that button down there. Now in that view, hello, can you give me that view? In that view, we need some inputs. We need text input, and I will use another styling for this. So I came up with a little input styling. Let's put this in. Where's my style? Here it is. Input styling with a specific height, border color, border width, and probably I could give this like a background. Does it have a background? I would like to give this a background color of white. Or does it automatically have a white background? I don't know. We're gonna figure out. So this one can take the input styling. And what we need as well is, of course, the placeholder. That's going to be title up here at the title of the set. Value will be information dot title. And of course, on change text, we want to update our state with a new text. And we can do this directly in here. We don't need an additional function. So we can call set information, and we will use the spread operator. So we're going to use all the information currently included in information and only overwrite title with a new text. So that's what we want to do. And then we have this beautiful field up here to create our title. And now we just need to replicate this a few more times. So we need one for description. Make sure you're updating all the fields, description and description. And additionally, we now need a switch. We need a switch for private or public. So we're gonna have to come up with some styling for that. But essentially, we're gonna use the switch component from React Native. And we will set the value to information.private. And of course, on value change, we can do the same fun we had before. So this time it just, I would call it value, and then set information, object, spread operator, everything from information and private set to value. Okay, let's see. I think I made a mistake somewhere. Okay, yeah, the styles, we can apply them. Cool. We got this nice thing here. Let's put a text next to it so it actually has some context. Probably also need some style in a second. Private. Yeah, that's going to be below it. So that's why we have to specify for this view the flex direction row. Then we'll display the stuff next to it. Then we're gonna align the items in the center. And probably, do we need anything else? We could add some margin as well, but we don't really have to. We could also just like add a gap now of 10 or something. That should, but I feel like we could add some margin vertical. Let's do that. Like 8. Yeah, so we have a bit of separation here. And we also don't really need a style here. Okay, that works. That works. We can add title, description. We have a private switch. We also need a way to capture an image. So let's add another touchable opacity. Oh no. Oh yeah, it added the import. Good, that's good. And here we are using the default style dot button the first time, as this will be the default button. And on press, we have the, yeah, we defined pick image a second ago. My brain is not up to this. Style for this button will be, did we add like a button text? Let's try default style dot, oh yeah, I added this, nice. I really like this concept of my global styles. So, nice function here. We probably also, so we need to capture that image, which we can do with the Expo image picker. I think we installed this in the beginning, right? Yeah, we should have. So that's going to be the default call to use the Expo image picker. Oh yeah, yeah, I still don't really like that. But let's add the image picker, and then I will launch the image library async as always. Media types all allow editing true, and especially I want to have a base 64 string. Thanks for that. Base 64. So that's what I want to pass back to the API. And if the result was not cancelled, and I still get like deprecation warnings about that, I don't know why. In that case, I want to update my information using the same pattern like before. So everything from information plus setting the image now to result dot assets dot no assets first item, because we only capture one image, dot base 64. That's what we want to do. And we can also log this out result here. So at this point I should be able, let's open my browser tools again, to pick an image. Yes, object and base 64 data. Perfect, perfect. With that information included, we should also be able to display it. So below my touchable opacity for selecting an image, I will show if information has an image, I want to render this. That shouldn't actually be too hard. So that should just be like an image component. The source should be Yuri, but now we need to append a string in ahead of this. So this is going to be a string that looks like this. So data, image, JPEG, base 64. So the image, meta information, and then the base 64. If you check this out, that's missing here in the result. So you usually have to put it in front of it to make that work. Also, we need some style. So we will say with 100%, just like we did on the other screens, and a height of 200. Okay, probably could also have some margin top. Margin top of, I don't know, like 16. Okay, that screen's coming together really nicely. We can put in our title, description, an image, and everything that we need. I wonder if this already works. I kind of feel like I'm missing out on something, but at the same time, I think it just works. I I'm making a post request here. That's a good time to check in with my API. At creating sets. Where is the post to sets? That's extracting an image from the body. Okay, so we can have our base64 string included in there. And if that's the case, we create an object with base64 content image, media type, and power. Okay, that looks pretty legit. I, by the way, had to add this in here in JSON stringify to correctly make the post request with the image work. There are also other ways to send an image to the server, but this worked. So let's try. I will just call this test for now, and my test description, it's going to be a private one. We have an image, so let's hit create set. Okay. Well, probably it worked or not. Let's see. Yes, it worked. Here we go. My test description. It's appearing here in Xata. We have my creator ID, and we also have my beautiful image of this golden leaf. That feels really good. Like, that is big progress for us. We are now able to create our own sets, which is, I think, something we should cherish. On top of that, we now want to add cards to a set. And I want to do this, by the way, it should it appear? Oh yeah, private things are not appearing in here. They are just under my sets once we render them. So that is something we should do right now. I don't want to implement the whole view, or what do I want to? I don't know. Do we want? Yeah. Well, why not? Why not? I mean, I planned this for the next part, but let's focus on learning the cards and the profile in the next part, and just do the my set screen now, because only from this screen I will get to the place where I can add cards. So let's begin by loading sets and also getting the state here correctly. And to get the state correctly, I will not only have an ID and a set. So let's import the interface, but also a canEdit boolean. We've seen this in the logs before, so that will be true only for the sets that I actually created. Now I can also set my data here. With that, we should see load set returns 3 objects, and for the third one, canEdit is true. Remember the first one, canEdit false. This one is now canEdit true, and under set, we're gonna find the actual information about that set. That means I want to render pretty much the same stuff like I did on the other page. So we're going to begin with style and default style sheet.container. And within, I want to render a flat list. What we can do as well is we can render a little information in case the user has no sets. That's kind of a bit too late for me now, so I should probably have implemented this in the beginning. But if we have no sets, we could still do this. Let me quickly do this. So I can just go back here, user sets, and delete the records. That means I have no records, and I have also no way to reload that view. Okay, so now we render add your first set as a little fallback, and then I would go to the sets screen. So just a tiny little thing to swap our views and go to the next page. Then I want to reuse the flat list. So yeah, let's just write it on our own. Data will be sets again. Then we're gonna have a refresh control just like we had here. So I will copy this is refresh state. Yeah, I'm that lazy. And then we have the refresh control, which will then call load sets. Let's see, refresh control loads. Yeah, we need to add that from React Native and correctly close this. Is this now correct? I think so. Okay, now we just need the render set row function. Let's do this up here. Cons render set row, and this is going to be a bit more challenging. So the type looks like this. We have again list render item, but since we included canEdit and more information, this is not just a set. It looks a bit horrible, to be honest, but no problem. We will be able to figure this out. I don't have anything in here, so I could just also make it these brackets and return a view. and then just say text test. Okay, and pass render set row to my render item function. And in a perfect, okay, yeah, we have no favorites. Yeah, okay, let's mark this one as our favorite. And I should have, yeah, the flat list is not rendering if I have no items. That makes kind of sense. At the same time, it's also not make, can I not render the, oh yeah, okay, it shows. For whatever reason, it now shows up. And we have the first element coming up. Now we just need a view for this. I don't want to implement the final view for the set row right now. I will copy some styling. So what we did on the search screen was we had the set row and the row title. And I kind of would like to copy that over to my page here. So style sheet, import from React Native, and colors, automatic import from my constants. And I should be able to use the same. I will also include a margin here now of 8. Then we have some padding and a background color, and I think I don't want a border. Okay, this is what I want. So now I will add this to my view here. Style, styles dot set row. So it's becoming this nice little white thingy here. And then once again, I have to wrap all the rest in here with flex direction row. Actually, I think we can put this down here as well. Flex direction row. And then we should be able to align all the stuff of our row correctly. Let's see. I'm gonna put in a view here. I don't actually know if we need that view, but I'm gonna place it here. And let's start with text. Oh no, a text as default. That was interesting. Text style should use my styles.row title. And that, guess what, is set.title. I just have some characters here that I don't need. Okay, so this is my first set here. I will be able to go to the learn screen from here later on. For now, the only thing I want to include is if the user can edit this. If the user can edit this row, looking for the right brackets here, we will render another link component. So link from Expo. Why are you not giving me that link component? Just from the Expo router. Okay, I have it already from the Expo router. I'm sorry. Sorry, Visual Studio Code. That one's on me. So this will go to another modal. Actually, I think we have not defined that modal yet. So let's do another folder. Cards, so to group this a bit, and under cards I want to create or where do we want to put this? Yeah, let's put a new file here, id.tsx, because we need to pass the set ID to that card. Okay, when we click on this here, we only have the set ID and we need a connection between card and set, so we're gonna pass that set ID to this page here. Okay, page, and just like before, we will be able to use the local search params from Expo router, and I will put a little log in here to see what's going on. So when I click this in my sets, I want to go to cards and then set.id. Am I in the right place? Did I really use the right the first time? That's good. But we haven't included the modal in our layout, right? So that's probably why it's not showing up. So let's just copy this one here. And let's do another one. Cards ID. Actually lowercase. Presentation modal. And I will call this update set cards. Okay, let's see. This is included. If I now click on it, modals, cards, in theory it should work. But not yet. I think because we have no touchable opacity actually, right? Yeah, so we have the link component, but it's not rendering anything. Yeah, for can edit, of course. So we add as child here, and then within the link component, I will render my touchable opacity with a styling of the default button. So default style button, and then we can close this, and text using style default style button text, and then we're gonna say edit. Okay, okay, that's right. For learn capitals, I am not allowed to change this, but for learn Spanish, Simon's Spanish set, which is a private set with this beautiful waterfall image, I should be able to add this. So if I refresh, I have the edit button. That's how we roll. And if I click it, boom, I'm in the update set cards. Now we're talking. Gotcha. Man, sometimes you really need to like wrestle with your code. But I won. We won. We all won. We all learned. And we are about to create an epic flashcard app here. So that means we're able to render the user list of sets. We can't edit these because they are like somebody created them and we can just learn with them. But on our own sets, we're now able to reach the card page. And that's the last page we now need in this section, because this will basically finish the whole setup of sets and cards. And actually this card screen does not have to be something really challenging. So let's implement this. We're passing the ID of a set to this page. So that means if I open this with edit, we're gonna receive the ID of a set. So we can easily attach new cards to that set. That being said, oh, so funny, Simon, you're so funny. What was the other thing? The refresh thing, right? So cards and set cards will first of all handle the state of our current cards. So that means it's going to be a card array in here, and initially it's going to be empty. On top of that, we will add new questions with their answers, and we probably also need the router to go back in case we delete something. So that was my idea as well. That I include a button up here to delete this whole set. I just want to have it in some place. So that's the place I selected for this. Then we're gonna add our use effect once again. Use effect with the ID as a dependency here. So if the ID changes, this code will run. And if we don't have an ID yet, we're gonna return immediately. Otherwise, we will load all the cards. So basically same stuff we did in other places, but this time we will get the data by calling get cards for set. And our set is the ID that was passed to this page. And then we can call set cards with the new data. On top of that, I will lock this out for some debugging and also actually call load cards. We need more functions. We need a function for on add card that will call something. So it's going to be an async function as well. And I will also add on delete set in here. That's actually pretty easy one, because that will simply call delete set from our API and pass the ID in. And then we can call router back, because if we delete the set, there's no point in being on this screen. So that's our on delete set. Now onto the view. Let's do some style here. First of all, I will do what we did on other screens as well. Oh, come on, I mixed those up totally. So default style sheet dot container. But additionally, I want to include some margin top like we did before, 20, and margin horizontal 16. I should probably include this in its custom style as well. Then I want to affect this and have a button up here. So we don't always have to do this in the layout file. We can also do it in here. So we can say stack.screen and options. And I feel like we have no code completion yet. So let's fix that first. So stack needs to be imported from Expo router. And then we can specify the header right, or you can also change the title in here. That's actually pretty cool. So header right will use, what's going on here? Touchable opacity. Yes, this one down here. And on press, I want to delete the set. And then I have an icon with the name trash outline. What's your problem with on delete set? Const on delete set touchable opacity. Is there anything wrong? No, it was just whatever. 24, and again color, not children, but color of white. So we have the trash up here. Redirect prop on screen is deprecated. That's cool. I think this is some redirect prop. I am not using redirect prop on stack screen. I don't know what's going on, but this is certainly not a problem I have. Do I want to delete this now? Yeah, let's try to delete this now because it has no information yet. If I refresh that, information is gone, and same here, user set should be removed. Okay, so delete is working. Let's do this again. My Spanish set test private with a great image again. Okay, let's create that set. We have not the perfect state management, but it's okay for our case. So with that in place, we can now render the cards. We don't really have any cards yet, so let's start with the inputs. Text, actually, can we do like the same we had on the set screen? We had cool text inputs here, didn't we? Let's try and reuse that. So text input, information is now question, and then set information and question is the text. So this is question, and then we do the same text input, but this time for the answer. Answer and answer. Okay, we have two input fields for a new question and a new answer, and I will render another touchable opacity below it, and that's going to be once again default style button. You can already imagine what follows. On press, we will call on add card, so there we need to handle this. And the text element will use the default style as well. So default style button text add card. Okay, so we got that. Now, when we press add card, we want to make an API call where we create the card. So let's create our new card by calling await create card. Yeah, we defined that. And we need to pass in a partial of a card again. So in my case, that's going to be set has the ID, so we have the relation to the set, and then we take everything from information. It's basically just question and answer. So it's really a very partial set of a card. Okay, this should give us a new card, and that also means I can update my cards here with all the cards we currently have plus the new card. And I will also call set information and set this back to an empty state with question, empty string, answer, empty string. Okay, we should theoretically be able to create a card for my set. So how do you say hello? Answer hola. Add card. Okay, the card was added. It has an ID, image, question, and it has a related set. Now, what happens if we close this and go into this? Yes, we get back an array of one card. So we should be able now to render this below. I will not use any fancy flash list or other stuff. I will just render this in a very simple list. Let's just add a view with some margin top of 20, and then I will map my cards. So cards map, and for every card I want to render a very simple view. It doesn't always have to be the most performant thing. Just make sure you include a card, an ID, which is card.id, some styling, which we will define in a second. And then we have a text field. Let's give this the font weight bold. That was funny. We should define some custom text really. Card dot question. So we render the question, and we of course also close our view, and we also have card dot answer rendered. Okay, how do you say hello? Hola. There we go. Probably for this view, let's add another one. I don't know. Whatever is the answer, and then it's 42. So edit, and it appears down here. I kind of wish to give this view a bit of padding and background color. So let's do with padding 16, background color white, then it appears like this, and probably some margin bottom of 10. Yep, then we have some nice separation. Cool! I think this view is done as well. We already tried to delete something, so that worked, and we were able to add cards. We should at this point also be able to render the amount of cards of a specific set. Didn't we have like a button? No, I don't think so. And since it's private, it's hard to show it here. I could probably do like another public set. So learn epic stuff, blah blah blah, create set. That would show up here, learn epic stuff, and it should also be available for me to add a question and an answer, and that means if I refresh this, this shows one card. Whew. We've done quite some progress here. We can load these templates, we can create user favorites, and we can now also create our own sets with image upload and cards to these sets. So if you followed the idea of this tutorial, you might have noticed that there's only one thing missing, and that is actually learning with the cards. To implement the learn functionality, we want to display some buttons here on our set so we can quickly dive into the learning experience of one of these sets, and that also means we need a new file. So I will create this in another group. I will call this learn slash, and then once again use id.tsx so we can have something, let's wrap this up, the set ID passed to this page. Additionally, I want to include this in my layout now. So just like before, we can now put in /learn/id, and I will just set the title to learn. With that in place, we can close this and go to our sets page, because that's the page from which we want to navigate to the actual set. We currently have only the title rendered. I want to display now next to this something else. So let's do another view with some styling first. This will have the flex direct. Do we need flex direction row here? Probably, right? Let's see. I will do row. And in this view, we're gonna have different link components, pretty much just like this. But the link will now go to learn. We can use the set ID, that is correct. And then I will say 3 cards. And that means I want to pass a query param here, limit equals 3. Okay, yes, that works okay. I will just move this block into our flex direction. Yep, there we go. That's it. And we need some gap between the items. And we need some margin top as well of 10. Yep, that looks good. So we are now able to get to this learn page with a query param. That's cool, because now I can just replicate this and say, okay, you can maybe also just learn 6 cards, or you can learn 10 cards. Okay, this is still a dummy scenario. So these are the ways to learn. We can pick one of those options to learn a set that we either added to us or that we defined our own. So let's use, by the way, also add this one here to my favorites. And then we have those 2 appear up here. Good. With those in place, we can focus on the learn page. Now, this is going to be somewhat challenging as we want to introduce some animations with reanimated. First of all, let's grab local search params, the ID and the limit. Why did I use 2 lines for this? Couldn't I just do it like this? That should work just the same. Let's see. I'm going to put a lock here and then let's go into it. Okay, this and limit 3, this and limit 10. Okay, yeah, that works nice. So with 1 line, we're able to extract both the params passed to this page and also the query params. Now we need a state with all the cards. So we have the limit, add import here, add import there. But we also need to load our cards once again using the same use effect block. But this time we're not using get all cards, but get learn cards with the limit passed to this page. That means if we pass 3, we will only get 3 cards passed to this page. Additionally, we actually need quite some more states. So let me add this because this is quite a lot. We have the current index of the card we want to learn. Then we want first to show the front of a card. The front of a card will basically be the question. Then you can think about the card, and this is not like an actual quiz app. In an actual quiz app, you would give an answer and then it would say right or wrong. In an Anki style flashcard learning application, you think about this. So it says, what is the Spanish word for hello? And you think, okay, that's encantado. And then you turn the card around and it gives you the solution. And you say, oh, no, I did get this wrong or that was right. So then you have buttons for wrong and right. And that also means we have this little flip card animation that we're going to introduce in a second. We will count how many wrong cards we had and how many right cards we had. And we will also show a result in the end. For a second, I was worried that the whole recording stopped, but all good, we're still here, so let's continue. I will try to first implement this without reanimated, although I noticed that there's one thing missing right now already, so we should probably fix this. In our Babel config, this is what we need to include. So we need to include reanimated here in the Babel config as the last element, and once we do this, oh, what is this? We need to restart this. So we need to call npx expo start-c for clear. Otherwise, you're gonna run into some problems if you add reanimated and don't do this. So let's get this right before we get into the further implementation. Let's see. We should hopefully still see all the same results, but it maybe takes a little second to build. Okay. And let's do J again. And then we can see if I go into this for 3 cards, I get an array of 3 learning cards. So we have the question and we have the answer, and we need to render this as a card in my view. Good. We will have some buttons as well. So we have a button to const on show answer. So that will basically just flip the card. We can already say set show front, and that will be false because the front won't be visible anymore. And then we have another one, const on next card, async. We're gonna pass a boolean to this one. So again, this is not a quiz app. The user is judging its own or his own or her own behavior. Now let's try and get started with a view. I'm going to use our good old default style sheet.container. That was really a good implementation. If we show the result, we're gonna show something else. If we don't show the result, means we're still in the, well, not in the game, but in the learning session. And if we have some cards, well, actually we can keep it like this. In that case, we gonna render our actual card view. And this is going to be interesting. Let's wrap all of this in an empty fragment. And at the top, so we'll use default style sheet. Do I have like a header styling? Not yet. So I came up with a header styling for my styles as well. So under styles, I will add a header. So there's just centered a really big text. Header. And once we get that, we can render the current index +1. So the current index starts at 0 from cards.length. Okay. So card 1 out of 3. Or if I would get 10 cards, text, where did I include something? I feel like, yeah, at some point our text must be inside strings. But where? Like, I did not do anything. Did I? Like, I sometimes wonder where this is adding a typo. It worked like a second ago. Text strings, yeah. Text, empty fragment. I don't have anything outside of my text. What is this? What kind of magic? Sometimes React, you're fascinating me. What if I click 3? Still the same. It must be something on this learn page. I hate it because I can't see it. Where? Where on this page did I include something outside of a text? Where exactly? There is nothing outside of a text. I'm not exactly sure, but this seems to fix the problem. Okay, so if that is your solution, then let's go back to what we already had before. Cards length greater than 0. Let's try it again. And let's refresh the view. And now it's not rendering my header anymore because card length is actually greater than 0. All right, it appears that we need this line here and then we can make it work. So now I can put in my current index again in here and it shows 1 out of 3. And if I go here, it's 1 out of 10. Okay, so strange error. I thought that check should work without it, but well, let's keep it like this. Now it's getting more challenging as we need to render the actual card. I will place this in another view for which I will use my own styling. So let's create a little styles object down here. Const styles equals style sheet dot create, and within I will place my own container styling. So this will also use flex1, but it will also align items in the center, and it will also use a margin top of 100. So that is the container for my cards, styles.container. In this container, we can now render the different cards. Actually, let's do another component for this. So this is a component. We do it in here, new file. I will call this learnCard.tsx. This component will get an interface. So an interface like this is front Boolean, text hidden Boolean, and the actual card information. Then we can export this. So const learn card equals, and it has access to card is front text hidden, and we just need to correctly use our props in here, and then we can just return a view, and in the view, let's say for now we just render a text element with the card.question. View, yeah, can we please import from React Native? That would be sweet. And also a text. Oh, come on, you can add the text from React Native. It's not that hard, please. Okay, we also want to export this learn card, of course, and we will probably need some more styling in a second. I will talk about this very soon. For now, this is what we need. But also, this is not completely correct. So the question should only be displayed if the front is shown. So therefore, let's change this to if is front and the text is not hidden. In that case, I will display. What did it change here? Why did you do all of this to me? In that case, this is actually not the card number. I took some of this from a tutorial, but I can't, for my sake of my life, find it anymore. I will definitely put a link in the description if I can figure this out again, because card number is definitely from a tutorial about building a flip card animation. So that's where I took this from. Let's call this just, I don't know, text or something. Okay, styles.text. So if not the front is shown, we could see the answer. So this is our very simple card, and we don't have any reanimated stuff in here yet. I think for now we should be able to just display this. Let's give it a try. If I include a learn card here now, I can pass in the card, which is cards at the current index. This is the card. Is front. I will just pass in true here, because I will create actually two cards for the front and the back. And text hidden for the front is dependent on text hidden. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Okay, this is a good start, because we have our first learn card. I could now also have the same card here with is front false, and I would see the answer. That's good. That's good. Okay, now it starts. How do we display this in a cool way? First, I want to render conditionally a button. So if we're still on the front, I want to render the button to like show the answer. So we have a touchable opacity here, which is once again using the same setup like before. Default styles, bottom button, and on show answer. Just make sure you add the right import, will be shown. So here we go. I have the question here. We're gonna talk about styling in a second, and show answer will do something. For now, as you can see, it hides the button, but we also need to do more. So now it's getting really interesting and challenging. And we can't shy away anymore. We need to talk about reanimated. There's a whole course on reanimated in Galaxies, and I have streams where we use different things about reanimated. And I just like to use it to create some animations. And we get started by introducing a shared value for rotate. So you use shared values from reanimated to basically animate stuff in your view in the native layer. What we now define is an animated style. So first we're gonna have an animated style for the front. Front animated styles. And this is using a hook use animated style. It's basically creating the same kind of style sheet like you're used to, but this is now for animations. What we're gonna return here is first of all a rotate value that we calculate. We calculate this using interpolate from React Native Reanimated, using the current value of our shared value, and then we use the input and output. So to interpolate from 0 to 1, from 0 to 180 degrees. And then we can return this, and this is like the actual style object that will be applied to our learn card. And in here we want to apply a transformation. And this transformation has one object, which is to rotate the y coordinate with timing. So that gives us like a nice little animation. And now I need to be careful to put in the right stuff. So I want to animate rotate value degrees and duration of, let's say, 600. Okay. Let's see if I got everything right. It looks good to me. Okay. And we're gonna do the same now for the back animated styles. So this is like flipping the card once and then we flip it basically back. In the case of flipping it back, we go from 180 to, so here we go from 0 to 180 degrees, and here we go from 180 to 360 degrees. But basically, the whole setup is the same. But now we have these front animated styles and back animated styles that we can apply. And we will apply them to the different learn cards that we have. So yeah, it's getting more challenging here. We are now using an animated view. And this animated view will have some styling. It will actually have an array of styles. And within that, I will put my first learn card. And then we're gonna have the same animated view set up for the second card. But first we need some additional styling here. So we're gonna have a front card and a back card specific styling. And this is now important. This is using a position absolute and the back face visibility hidden. This makes sure that you actually get this card effect, because otherwise you kind of see like through a layer, and that gives us the hidden back face visibility. So we are using a combined style sheet here of styles.frontCard and front animated styles. And as I said, we will use the same here, but now back card and back animated styles, and do the animated view, closing this down here. Pooh, that was hard. Okay, what did we get? Nothing really fancy so far. The only thing we do have is this up here, which kind of looks not super great to me. I feel like we kind of need some more margin. Can we give the container some padding horizontal or something? I don't know if this is going to work. Well, okay, yeah, but still better than nothing. Okay, so far, if I press this, nothing happens. This is because on show answer, I just set show front to false. Now the magic comes because I set the rotate value to 1. And by changing this, everything in our app changes. So if I now click on show answer, wow, that was nice. That was nice. By changing the rotate value, the whole styling here changed, and everything that we put in place with timing, the rotate value, the switching between the values, everything falls into place, and we have the back face of the car. Let's see it again. I click the button and it switches like this. I probably could make this even better. The learn card already has a background. I also feel like the learn card, oh yeah, we did a mistake. We did a mistake. I don't need padding horizontal. I need to use the container styling on my learn card. That's it. That's why the card was looking so boring. Watch out for this. So much better. Okay, let's do it again. Show answer. And there we go. This is what I wanted to see. Ah, yeah, I knew there was something wrong. Okay, here we go. So the only problem now is that I can only do this once. So I can only show the answer for a card once. And now I need new buttons. Just like new balls in tennis, we now need new buttons. And we will display them below. So if we are not in the show front mode anymore, in that case, I want to render something down here. I want to render a view which is using style styles dot. Okay, yeah, I wanted to have a specific bottom view, which is a tiny bit different from the bottom view button we had in the beginning. So this will also be at the bottom, but still a bit different. So this is now my bottom view, and let's close this before I forget about it. And within we will put 2 touchable opacities. Style will be once again default style sheet dot button, and on press of the first one I will call my on next card, and I will pass true. So this button will basically mean, okay, we got that card right. So therefore I will add the text correct and the checkmark ionicons. Let's render this, and we're gonna see we have the correct button. And now we will do the same button again. So next to it, another touchable opacity, same setup, but this time on next card is false. And if I put this down here, we now have correct and wrong. So that means I could click one of these, but it's not really doing anything. So at this point, when we have the correct and the wrong button, which by the way, yeah, show up only now, they should also trigger some logic, because they need to say, okay, you got the card right, you got it wrong, or anything else. So where's the function for that? On show answer on next card. Here we go. So on next card, it will first of all check if the current index is below cards.length -1. So that means, do we still have cards left? If that's the case, then we can rotate back. So we can set rotate value back to 0. We can set text hidden to false, to true, because during this back transition, let's actually do this for now. Let's do it like this. So if I do it like this, why does it only work once? Show answer, correct. It goes back here, but we're also at the same time replacing our card. So that's a bit more complicated, and we will have to update our index. So we need to call set current index +1 to update it. And if we do it, it's just not working correctly. You see, there's some issue here. And therefore we need to hide the text. Then we use a little timeout here. I know it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but in some scenarios, a little timeout is okay. As I know, there's like a 600 milliseconds animation taking place. And while we do this, or when this ends, I want to set my text hidden to false again. So that will give us a nice animation here. By the way, in the else case, we have to calculate the result of our view. Also, what we want to do is, I want to check if the correct is true. So if correct was true, I want to call set correct cards +1. In the other case, I want to set my wrong cards to wrong cards +1. This is just for the calculation. Okay, let's see. Let's go back. If I go into, I can show the answer. Is this right? Did I get this right or wrong? Maybe or not. And then we see this. Probably we don't have to use 600 in here. Maybe it could be even less. But the problem is otherwise that we otherwise see some text before the turn animation is over. So yeah, 500 should work as well. Probably maybe even 400. Let's see. Show answer. Yeah, that should also work. I'm fine with that. And by the way, I want to now call set show front back to true. Do I actually have to? I wonder. I really wonder. Do we actually need show front? Yeah, we need it for the buttons. We need it for the bottom buttons. If I don't do this, yeah. Okay, yeah, now I get it. Show answer, correct. Yes, now it works. I can go show answer, wrong, show answer, do it. Okay, perfect. So the whole flow seems to work. Now we just need to do a little bit of calculation. So when we're done, I want to do a few things. I want to first of all show the result screen. So I will set show result to true, and then I will calculate the right and the wrong cards based on my correct cards, and also based on the last card I evaluated. Is this, yeah, based on the correct Boolean here. Once we got that, we can already or directly call save learning, because the learning session is over. We have the ID. How many cards did we totally check? That is our limit. Then what is the correct number? That is correct result. And what is the number of wrong cards? That is the wrong result. Okay, don't get the wrong result wrong. Once we got that, we can also set my correct cards. So this is a thing about the state. If I set the correct cards and try to immediately use that value, it just won't work. So I'm going to set the correct cards afterwards, and then also the wrong cards afterwards. Okay, so this is my result, basically, in a nutshell. Now I just need to render that result. Actually, this is not going to be super special. So let me just bring this in real quickly. If I want to show the results, I will present this view, and the result text is just another styling down here to make this with a bit bigger font size. Did I not add the link component yet? Well, okay, so this is what I want to render. How many did I get correct? How many did I get wrong? And then we should also have a button at the bottom to end the session. In total, it should look like this. Learn capitals. Which is the country of the Paris located in? France, of course, I knew. Correct. Which country is the city of Rio de Janeiro? That's Brazil. Okay, I got that correct. Which is Sydney? Let's assume I don't know. Ooh, Australia, I didn't know. Wrong. So I got 2 correct and 1 wrong. Yeah. On next card false. On next card false. Yeah, no. This should be 1 0. No, actually it should, if this is correct. How did I get that wrong? That's like a super easy thing. Let's do this again. 3 cards. I get this one correct, and this one is wrong. So wrong result is 1. Set wrong cards. Wrong result. I feel like this is once again, as you can see, we're setting wrong cards. Wrong result. Oh yeah, wrong result. Set wrong cards should be wrong result. Yes, that one's on me. I'm sorry. I messed that up. Correct, wrong. 2 correct, 1 wrong. Okay, that one was on me. So I can now end my session. That brings me back here. How can I now see my learning sessions? And by the way, did we do everything correct? I don't know, but we can implement our last screen, which is the profile. So on the profile, I just want to load my progress. So let's wrap this up by implementing the profile screen now. I will put in what we did on all the other pages before. We have a use effect which loads our progress, and this time I call get user learnings. At the same time, we need some state up here. So we need our sets, which is using useSet, and of course the set from my page would usually not working. So set score cards correct. We don't have an interface for this yet. So I will just do it like this. And we have our refreshing function so we can render a flat list. Now for the view, we are doing one last time our default style sheet .container. I've really fallen in love with this. And a text component style default style sheet .header and saying sets.length sessions. Let's see if this works. I did about 3-4 sessions. Yeah, that could be right. That means like, or it looks like we got the data of our user sessions, and hopefully Xata and our backend calculated a score for us for these sessions. So let's one last time add a flat list. Oh, not from the React Native gesture handler, just a flat list from React Native. Data, my sets. Refresh control, the same like we had before. So refresh control, just like this. And then close this. And what we need as well is render item. And render item will need one last function. So render set row. I could probably do this with something else, but it's good to use the flat list. Usually it has a better performance than just doing it with like map block. And this interface, I think, should be exactly this. Let's hope. Let's hope for the best. List render item. That should be this. And then we have the function to extract the item, destructure this, and then render our, oh, good. Whew. Let's try and just render a view and see if this is right. Yeah, it looks at least right. If I render this, okay, yeah, perfect. Now in this row, I should have Did we add like a set row before? I feel like we did. Yeah, we did before. So let's bring this in from a style sheet. Here we go. And of course my constant colors from the constants. So now I should be able to use this as the styling here. Styles.setRow. And for every set row, we'll wrap this as well. So we'll have a text with item.set. I could probably destructure this as well, but now let's do it like this. Item set title. So that will tell us which set we learned. Okay, I did all of these on learn the capitals. Not a big deal, not a big deal. Let's do some styling here as well. Styles.row title. And then we're gonna have the score. So for this, I will use colors.dark gray. Let's close this, and the score will be, let's see, item.score. Let's say to fixed to position. Just want to make sure. And then we have a nice score. Actually, we did all the same, so we have the same score. At the same time, we should also be able to render item.xata.created@. Let's see, this should give us like a long string. Yeah, let's just do a substring. This is really ugly, but it's okay. Let's do this substring. Then we get the date of this as well. And I think that's actually it. Let's try something else. Let's do learn programming languages. I want to add this to my favorite. I want to do 6 cards. Which frame? Okay, I'm just giving correct, correct, wrong, wrong, correct, correct. So 4 correct, 2 wrong. Oh, I just noticed that's going to be 66% again. But we have now learned programming languages with the score in here as well, which means we have successfully implemented everything there is. We have image upload, we have the recording sessions connected to a set. You could easily now go from here to a set again. And I think at this point, the sky's the limit. You can actually build this out pretty nicely. You could now also include more from Xata. So if you check out the documentations of Xata, you're gonna see that they have some Ask AI. You could even have AI included or structure your data that you know which cards the user got wrong, so you can actually build this Enki style flashcard learning logic into this application. But what we've done is, I think, really impressive. We have the routing of the tab bar, we have modals, we have images, and we of course have image upload. We can create our sets, and we can edit our sets to include new cards and images. And we finally got the learn experience, go away, with a nice little reanimation flip of this card. So I really hope you enjoyed this, and if you build this out into something bigger, please let me know. Alright, and that's it for today's build. I hope you enjoyed this full stack tutorial once again, where we started with the API, with Express, with Xata, and then went step by step into creating a fully powered React Native application. I think this was pretty cool. It was a cool experience, both modeling the backend and then using the data from the front end. And of course, we haven't checked out everything from Xata. So just want to recap, Xata was the sponsor of today's video. You can check it out at xata.io, and there's a lot more to Xata in terms of branching. They even have AI functionality, and there's a lot coming up on their roadmap. So definitely keep an eye on Xata and give it a try if you want to replicate this tutorial. If you encounter any problems with the build, check out the code hosted on GitHub, link below this video, and otherwise let me know in the comments if you want to see more full stack tutorials like these in the future. So comment below, hit subscribe to get the new videos, and I will catch you in the next one. So until then, happy coding, Simon.